Hello and welcome back to We Talk Boxing. This is a pre-fight video for the up-and-coming fight between Lomachenko versus Jamaine Ortiz, which is scheduled for this Saturday, the 29th of October at Madison Square Gardens. Now, before I continue, please subscribe, like, and comment for more boxing-related content, and most of all, please leave a comment regarding your thoughts about this fight, and obviously I'll get back to you guys as best as I can. So, I would also be doing, so stay tuned for post-fight analysis about this fight, after these guys have shared the ring with each other. So, this fight will see both boxers go into the fight, with good boxing records. Jamaine Ortiz is currently, he's had 16 wins in 17 fights with one draw to his name. Whilst Lomachenko, his record is currently 16 wins in 18 fights, having 2 losses to his name as well. So again, fairly similar records between both guys, and brilliant to be fair. Now both guys, are ranked in some of the boxing organisations, such as, Ortiz is currently ranked in number 12 with the WBO and number 7 with the WBC. Whilst Lomachenko, is highly ranked in all of the organisations. He's currently number 1 with the WBO, number 2 with the IBF, number 1 with the WBC, number 4 with the WBA, and number 2 in the Ring Magazine ratings as well. So he, will be, for most people, the clear favourite in this up-and-coming fight between both guys, due to him being, obviously, the higher ranked boxer. He's also a free-weight world champion. He's also a 2-time, medalist, Olympic gold medalist, and he's held, previously 3 of the 4 belts, in a lightweight division. And this was before his defeat to Teofimo Lopez as well. Again, he will be, in most people's eyes, the clear favourite as well. And most people would consider this pretty much a tune-up fight. So, the head-to-head physical stats between both boxers reveal, that obviously, Lomachenko is slightly the shorter man, being 5'7" compared to Ortiz, who is 5'8". Do you know what I mean? Obviously, Ortiz has got that reach advantage as well. He's got a 69-inch reach compared to Lomachenko's 65.5. Do you know what I mean? Loma is obviously southpaw. Obviously, Ortiz is orthodox. Ortiz is the younger man as well. He's 26 years of age, so he's got a lot of youth on his side. Loma, he's getting on a little bit. He is 34, a good 34. You know what I mean? He's still got quite a lot of miles on his clock. You know what I mean? But he's got the bigger KO percentage rate at 69%. Compared to his younger opponent in Ortiz, he's got a 47% KO rating. Now, one of the, the things that I kind of said previously, just, like Lomachenko, has got a lot of amateur experience. Do you know what I mean? He's had, 397 bouts, only losing 1 fight, So I guarantee that he would have seen and come across, Ortiz's style during all of those 397 fights, plus, his professional fights that he's had as well. So yeah, he's got a lot of the experience in regards to the amateur background as well as the pro as well. When comparing the caliber of fighters both men have fought to date, there seems to be a big distinct difference between, both opponents that both guys have challenged to date. There's a golfing class, Ortiz, do you know what I mean, has only faced, pretty much one noticeable opponent on his resume, and that was in his last fight against Jamal Herring, and he won that fight on a unanimous decision, but it was a 10-rounder, do you know what I mean, in last May, and he was pretty much the only guy on the record, on his record, that, that I recognise, compared to Lomachenko. Do you know what I mean? Lomachenko's record speaks for itself, to be fair, he's been in there with so many, top rated opponents and ex-world champions and stuff. It's unreal, really. And some of the names, just to kind of list them off the list, people such as Gary Russell Jr., Romain Martinez, Rigondeaux, Linares, Pedrada, Anthony Crolla, Luke Campbell, Teofimo Lopez, Richard Comey. Do you know what I mean? That's the sort of opposition that Lomachenko's been in there with. Do you know what I mean? And something else which is quite interesting on Ortiz's resume, you know what I mean, and fights, etc., is that he hasn't completed a 12-round fight yet. You know what I mean? This will be his first 12-round fight. You know what I mean? He's most of his fights have either been 8 or 10 rounders. Do you know what I mean? And he's been a distance a couple of times in those 10 rounders. Do you know what I mean? Whereas, you know what I mean, on the other hand, when you're looking at obviously Lomachenko, do you know what I mean? He's done 12 rounds multiple times. So when obviously looking at both guys, you know what I mean, opponents face, these guys don't share any common opponents, so I can't obviously compare how well each guy's done against each opponent that they've faced. But you know what I mean, from some of the footage that I have seen on YouTube, you know what I mean, from Ortiz, you know what I mean, he looks pretty decent. You know what I mean? He's a young, you know what I mean, prospect who's still developing, and he likes to box at range, and he's light and he's nimble on his toes. Do you know what I mean? And he often, you know what I mean, kind of like bounces in, like just stays just out of reach, and kind of like he's on his toes, and he kind of hops in. You know what I mean, with a double jab or single jab to kind of then throw his you know what I mean, his backhand and stuff. Do you know what I mean? But when he does break the distance and he gets close, you know what I mean, to his opponent and stuff, he then tries to manhandle him and, you know, kind of like rough him up and stuff. But it yeah, he looks good, and he looks interesting, and you know what I mean, depending on how well he does in this fight and stuff, you know what I mean, will depend on how far he could potentially go. And even if, you know what I mean, he doesn't get proper seriously outclassed or knocked out or whatever, and he does well against, you know what I mean, Lomachenko, maybe the fight goes the distance and stuff, and he might come out with some positives in this fight and might progress his career later on, you know what I mean, in the future and stuff. So yeah, like he does look a decent prospect, but obviously Lomachenko is different class. And obviously, if don't get me wrong, if Lomachenko kind of ages overnight and comes out a shadow of himself, then you know what I mean, this is going to be a tough fight for him, because this kid's got to, you know what I mean, he's going to pull it on him. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, he has to. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's going to be interesting, because obviously we all know Lomachenko's boxing style, do you know what I mean? Obviously his footwork and his movement, you know what I mean? It's just brilliant, to be fair. And he the way he moves his opponent around in the ring, you know what I mean? It's just brilliant. His agility, his speed, you know what I mean? He just demonstrates perfect and beautiful boxing every time he gets in the ring. So for me, do you know what I mean? I think that he could potentially overwhelm and maybe frustrate and confuse his younger opponent in this fight, and he might even just proper teach him a lesson. Now, you know what I mean, like whether or not he stops him, I don't really know. Really, do you know what I mean? But I do think that, you know what I mean, if it's the Lomachenko that we all know, I do think that, you know what I mean, this fight is just gonna just be a little bit too much for Ortiz, but it's a good fight for him, you know what I mean, because he's taking on potentially one of the best, and he's gonna learn. He's gonna learn from this fight. Do you know what I mean? But as I said, obviously, look, you know what I mean, Lomachenko is getting older now. Do you know what I mean? And you know what I mean, he might be slowing down. Do you know what I mean? We don't know. And I mean, we ain't seen him for months. Do you know what I mean? So it just depends on what Lomachenko we kind of get on the day. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it's going to be a good fight. Now, my thoughts and predictions about this fight, do you know what I mean, is that I think for the first 2 to 3 rounds, you know what I mean, like Ortiz is going to be still in the fight. Do you know what I mean? He's going to be probably doing well, and he probably put a lot of pressure on maybe Lomachenko and stuff. But I think soon and after, once, you know what I mean, like Lomachenko was warmed up, and you know what I mean, I think he would potentially kind of overwhelm his younger opponent. Do you know what I mean? And might even force the stoppage. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure whether or not he'll get the KO, but I do think, you know what I mean, that he will be a little bit too much for his younger opponent. And, you know what I mean, the referee or the corner might just, you know what I mean, have to stop the fight, because I think he'll potentially overwhelm him and stuff and just maybe frustrate him too much. But anyway, do you know what I mean? I don't want to long this video out too much. Do you know what I mean? You guys have got my thoughts and predictions about this fight, so let me know yours. Do you know what I mean? Do you feel as if that it's a good fight, and how do you see it going, and how do you think it would potentially end? Points, stoppage, a KO win? Do you know what I mean? Do you think Ortiz is gonna win, or do you think it's a straightforward victory for Lomachenko? Anyway, you know what I mean? As always, please like, subscribe, and comment for more boxing related content. Bless.